3, 2, 5. Hello, and welcome to the virtual teaching kitchen at BGSU State University. Well, that was double. Every.
It's been a long day.
Everybody knows funny. But we'd like to welcome Girl Scout Troop 12325 this evening. We're very excited to have you. We wish you could see you in person, but we know with COVID-19 going on, we've got to take a little care with each other. So my name is Chef Marissa Riffle. I'm the Senior Executive Chef here at the university, and my partner this evening is?
I'm Paige Wagner. I'm the Registered Dietitian for BGSU Dining, and Chef Marissa and I, along with our Marketing Director John, who's behind the camera tonight, we all collaborate and run the teaching kitchen together. So John's going to be moderating questions, and he's going to send you a little chat right now. So if any of you have questions while we're cooking, you can type them up and he will read them out loud to us so we can make sure that you're getting the right information.
So obviously today you've already picked up your boxes of all your ingredients. Everything had a label on it, so you should be pretty good with that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, so we're doing spaghetti and meatballs tonight with a cheesy garlic bread and a summer refresher, which sounds like a delicious meal, and I think you guys will enjoy. The first thing we're going to do is what we chefs like to call mise en place. So mise en place means everything in its place. So a couple of things we're going to make sure before we fully get started that you need to have going is a pot of water. I would have that on the stove if you're cooking along with us, and get that, a little salt in the water, just a pinch of salt in that water so that we can cook our spaghetti. The other thing is, no, I guess it was the pot of water that we forgot to tell you in your equipment list. So with that being said, now we're going to work on a couple other things. In your bag, what should have found this paper. This is called parchment paper. You have one large sheet, and what I need you to do is fold it in half. And then you should be able to tear it.
And see how well this
And if you can't tear it, I'm going to show you a trick with your knife.
Or if you have kitchen scissors, that's another way to do it. Perfect, look at that.
If you fold it and you crease it really well, it'll do that. What you want to do with these, and this is part of your mise en place, which means everything in its place, we're just getting things ready, is take your 2 sheet pans, or your cookie pans. Because one is going to be for your meatballs, and we're going to line the other one, and that's going to be for your cheesy bread. Now you're doing that, you're going to keep your trays clean that way. The other thing that we're going to do first off is we're also going to get all of our chopping done out of the way. So when we're ready to saute and mix and do all those kinds of things, then we have all that done. So the first thing we want to do is I have an onion in there, and we're going to cut an onion. But let's talk about a little bit about knife safety. So if you can see, as you can see with me, I have something unusual on my hand. This is called a cut glove. I'm required to wear this. And if you are just learning how to cut, it's not a bad idea for you to have something like that too. But I have a protective plastic glove over the top of it also, so that way the food doesn't soak into my glove. But that way, if I'm cutting, I won't hurt myself if I accidentally slip.
Where could you buy one?
Any of the kitchen stores. Did somebody say they found it at Meijer or Walmart?
They might have, yeah. You know, honestly, I always say Amazon's worth a shot too. You can find almost anything on Amazon, and you want it to run tight too. You do not want it to be loose, because that's not safe either. So sometimes we even wear the kid-size gloves because it fits so snugly and makes us feel safer.
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to hold your knife. So if you have a knife, you want to put your index finger on the blade of the knife. Don't run it past that blade part. Then you want to pinch it and put your fingers around it like this. It's going to feel very strange, and it's probably going to feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not. What you're gonna do wrong is if you try to chop really fast or cut really fast and you haven't done this before. Most people wanna hold the blade back here. That's not good. You don't really have control of your knife. So you wanna come up on the blade, my fingers like this, and my hands tucked underneath there. Now when I hold anything, you're gonna see me make a C or a claw shape with my other hand, and I'm gonna hold on to whatever product I'm cutting. And so my onion, I'm gonna cut this tip off, and I'm gonna cut very little of the root off. Don't cut all the way through, because that root is actually gonna hold your onion together while you're cutting it. Then we're gonna take this, we're gonna cut it in half.
And don't you always say, Chef, the safest way to cut is on a flat surface?
Absolutely, so that's why I cut my onion in half, because could you imagine if I was trying to cut that full onion, I'd be chasing it around my cutting board. And on that note too, another thing to make sure that you do too, if you notice my cutting board has like rubber mat on it, that's because it won't move. If you have a cutting board at home that doesn't happen to have those on there, take a wet towel, put it underneath your board, and that keeps your cutting board from moving. So that way you're not chasing your board around, because that'll happen. Some of those boards are really slippery. All right, then we're gonna peel the onion. All you're gonna do is take the layer of skin there and just pull it off. If for some reason you happen to grab a little bit of the onion and it goes to, it's okay. We're learning. What do we say in the teaching kitchen page? No wrong answers, no wrong things.
Yep, no wrong questions, and if you mess up, there's usually a way to fix it, and if not, that's when we let you take the chef's food for dinner. Except tonight we can't send it through the camera, but we would.
But you guys will be fine. All right.
And I know, especially with this age group, a lot of people sometimes don't always like onions. So would you suggest if they don't want to use it, they could leave it out but still practice cutting?
Absolutely. Practice cutting, leave it out. If you don't, when we get to the steps where it goes into something, you're more than welcome to leave it out. That's going to go with most of the ingredients that we're doing. Some of them are going to be crucial that you have to have them in. But with some of the seasonings, if you don't like one of the seasonings, it is okay. That's the great thing about cooking too, is that it's part of your personality and what you like. Another unique thing we did tonight is we gave you the recipes first. We usually don't do that when you're in the teaching kitchen, because we like you to experience what we're saying, watch us what we're doing, and not worry about that recipe. It's all about learning the methods and the techniques is what we're trying to do for you. So don't worry about that recipe. That's for your reference when we're done doing this. Walk through with us and do this together with us, and then that recipe is a great refresher. All right, so when we cut our onion, you can see there's almost like little lines on your onion. You can use that as your guide. And remember, this is the root part, so the root part is gonna go this way. It's gonna go away from me. I'm gonna take my knife, but I'm not gonna cut all the way through the root, because then, like I said, I'll have a mess on my hands. Try to keep your fingers tucked in as best you can. If it gets to a point where you feel like you can't, just take your hand on the other side. And then we're gonna run our knife this way. Probably about 1/4 of an inch is what we wanna do. We don't want really large chunks in our meatballs and in our sauce, unless you really like to bite into a really big chunk. But here we go. And we're gonna do both halves of this. We're gonna put it back we're gonna put it in a bowl, or we're gonna put it off to the side, and then that way it'll be ready when we need it.
So with the onion, Chef, say you don't use all of it tonight, how long would that stay good for if you wanted to save extras and put it in another dish?
I would say at least 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
I wouldn't go more than 3 days. What do they mean? It just doesn't start to have the same pungent.
Right.
Plus your refrigerator's probably starting to smell from it. All right, then we're gonna do the other half. Same thing. Hopefully you guys can see. This is really hard for Paige and I, because we love seeing everybody and we love
It's hard not seeing everyone's reactions. So a lot of times our classes are based off of our conversations with you and our feedback. So it does make it harder being behind a screen. So if any of you have anything you want to shout out to us and ask questions, even if it's not maybe necessarily related to this dish, but nutrition or culinary questions, please ask them.
All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clean off our board here and get all our onions put off to the side. We are gonna take our garlic, and what you actually have, everybody should have gotten actually a whole head of garlic. So when you have that whole head of garlic, you'll see that kind of little tip where it's all the skin is gathered together at the top, because you've got a nice big bulb like that. You probably want to cut that tip off, and then you can pull the cloves out, because this is a clove of garlic. So what you have in that head of garlic is probably maybe 8 to 10 cloves put together, and you're just going to break those apart. Now, if you're a big garlic person, then you're going to need more than, I'd say, 4 cut and peeled. You might want 6 cut and peeled. I'm so with garlic, that's just me. So I'm only going to do about 4 garlic cloves. But what we want to do is this one we're actually going to do 2 different ways. One we're going to dice, and one we're going to slice. So now I've got the skin on here, and how am I going to get that off? So I'm going to cut that little tip off. There's 2 ways. You can try and sit and do that, which is really kind of a pain, or you're going to take the back of your knife, you're going to hold your knife like this, lay it down, give it a good whack, and now look, the skin comes right off.
And when you do things like that with your knife, that's when it's really important to make sure that you have, a safe, sturdy cutting board, because that's when your knife could really move on you.
So I'm going to do it again. So another trick to peeling garlic is you could take one of the containers that you have, and you put the garlic in there, put the lid on, and you continuously shake it, and that'll actually knock off the skins of your
I've never heard that one.
Yep. Much like a hard-boiled egg. You can do the same thing with a hard-boiled egg. Put it in a pan, put a lid on it, and just keep shaking it, and then it's much easier to peel that way.
Never would have thought of that.
Yay! At least I know one person learned a trick tonight. Yay!
So, Chef, a conversation that we always had in my house growing up is garlic, a fresh clove of garlic like that, is that supposed to be stored at room temperature or in the fridge, or does it not matter?
I always say room temperature.
Okay.
Once you peel it, if you still have the skins and stuff on, I would leave it out. But once you peel it, otherwise then once again the smell permeates everywhere.
Oh, that's true. Your house might smell
yeah.
like garlic.
Oops. I was about to clean one that I didn't need to clean. All right, so I'm going to do one more just to show you. Now I may get a little bit ahead of you, but it's okay. What we're doing isn't hard to catch up, so just keep on doing. But I'm going to show you with the garlic what I want to do. Is the first one I'm going to cut. I'm actually going to choose my little larger piece for this. And I'm going to do thin slices. Now, if you do not care to bite into garlic like this, go ahead and chop all your garlic. You don't have to do this. This, I was doing the thin slices for the sauce. But if you don't care for that, don't do it that way. Just chop it off. Just like that.
Have we had any questions yet, John?
All right, so now I'm going to go to chop my garlic. I'm going to use the same principle that I did with the onion. I'm going to make little cuts in it like this. This one I'm probably going to have to hold on either side. There's just not really a good way to do that. And then I'm going to run it through like this. So same principle that you did with your onion. Now I can stand here and I can run my knife like this and then clean it off and then do it again. Or if I want it a little bit finer, take some of the salt that you have, sprinkle a little salt on that garlic, and then you're going to take your knife. This is the non-sharp side that goes down like this, and then you're going to press it and keep going like this. And that will actually mince it for you. That salt helps break down that garlic into finer pieces.
Could you use a food processor?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, here at work, when we're doing large quantities, we take fresh peeled garlic and we run it through our food processor so that we have buckets of it ready to go, so that we're not doing this all the time. If you don't want to use fresh garlic and you want to use, we gave you that tonight, so that you could see what it was like. But if you don't want to take all that time and you would rather just buy the minced garlic in the halva, that is not a problem. You most certainly can do that. Okay, so the more you cook, though, I will tell you, you will learn the difference between flavors.
Yep.
There's a huge difference. You think the same thing, Paige?
Oh yeah. My mom always bought the kind that was in water in the little jar.
Yep.
And then when I was on my own and cooking more, I started buying garlic cloves and doing it myself. And I bought a garlic press. And the flavor is just completely different. So much fresher. There's just more flavor in general.
Even like, as you're cutting this, I know you can smell it because you can't help but smell it. And that's just a good trick. You're cooking a meal. You're trying to impress anybody, you know what you do? Just put a little garlic, a little butter on the stove, and a little garlic. It always smells good. Everybody always is like, ooh, it smells so good. So there's your trick for the day. All right, next we're gonna take our two, I'm gonna flip my cutting board over. It's not gonna hurt if you don't, but I'm gonna flip my cutting board over. Use the cleaner side here. This is basil, and the basil, usually they're a little bit larger leaf, but this will still work. How we're gonna cut this is you're gonna take those leaves that you have and you're gonna stack them like this. When it's much larger leaf, it's gonna be a little bit easier on you. You're gonna kind of roll it, or this one you might just have to fold over. My gloves out of control tonight. And then this cut right here is a ribbon cut or a chiffonade. So that's the first step in it. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do another kind of quick run through it.
And one thing I would suggest to you, from my standpoint, as someone who hasn't necessarily, gone to culinary school and isn't a chef, is smell your fresh herbs before you cut them, and you kind of get used to the scents, and it's so much easier to pick out, all the different kinds in the grocery store and pick out fresh ones. And sometimes just the smell, you can start to learn how to pair it with different foods. So
perfect.
Yeah,
that's a great idea, and that's a great segue into what I was going to talk to you about too. Was that the other herb that you have? This is flat leaf Italian parsley. Next time you're in the grocery store, look at flat leaf Italian parsley and look at
curly parsley, right?
Cilantro.
Oh, I thought we were doing the different types of parsley.
I didn't even talk about.
Oops.
I didn't even talk about curly.
Curly parsley just looks weird, but yes, look at cilantro. They look the same.
Yep, they do. The way you can tell the difference is cilantro. One, smell. Whenever you want to smell an herb, rub it in between your hand like that. Go like this. The Italian parsley, to me, the only way I can describe it, smells green.
Yep, earthy. I always say it smells earthy.
Kind of dirt-like.
Mm-hmm.
And the cilantro has, the leaves on the edge are kind of more wispy-like. And when you rub that and smell it, to me, it's almost a citrusy type smell. Very, very fresh, too. All right, so with this, if your stem, if your stem is super large on what we gave you, take that stem off. The only stem I ever kind of recommend is that you can eat is the cilantro, because it's so thin, it still has a flavor. But a lot of herbs, if you don't strip that off the stem, you're going to get a lot of bitterness out of there. So we're just going to do a neat little pile. There is nothing fancy about this. You want to run your knife this way, and to gather it up, turn your leaves this way.
I can really smell that. It smells really good.
Maybe one day they'll invent smell-o-vision so that we can all smell the same thing together. Maybe that's what one of you girls can do, and then
that can be your STEM project, and then you can come work with us.
All right, so that's all I'm going to do to chop that up. Just a real rough chop. And like I said, this is going to be for both of our ingredients that we're doing. And then just go ahead and put it back in the container that it came in, or if you have something else, you can do that. So now, we actually
I think that's everything.
Oh, I made a mess with the milk, but anyways. We actually have all of our mise en place done, so what I'm going to do is I don't think we need the cutting board anymore. I'm going to get this out of my way. Clean up my mess a little bit, and now we're going to do our meatballs. So if you want to take a second, either catch up, clean yourself up for the next step, because you should always do that when you're in the kitchen. Sorry, I'm not looking at you. You should always do that. Keep clean as you move along.
It makes it so much easier in the end too.
It does. I love my daughter to death, but she waits till the very end, and so I can't cook in the kitchen with her anymore.
I know, or you could be like my husband and you do all the cooking, but then you're like, oh, I don't have time to clean.
Oh no. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to take a your bag that says breadcrumbs. And I think if you haven't seen these before, when you open these breadcrumbs up, they're going to look a little bit different to you. That's because we use panko breadcrumbs. Panko is a Japanese breadcrumbs, so they're a little bit thicker, a little bit denser. I enjoy them better than the regular breadcrumbs, but
I think that they don't
use regular breadcrumbs.
And I think that they don't necessarily have a big flavor to them at all. A lot of the breadcrumbs you buy, sometimes I think they taste garlicky, or there's like you could only use them and then have that flavor in them. But this, I feel like you can build whatever flavor you want into the breadcrumbs.
It does. It makes a nice crust too if you're making a crust on something. So it's about a quarter of a cup. I probably gave you a little more than a quarter of a cup. So if you don't want to do the whole bag, that's okay. If you want to leave like a tablespoon of it out, and then we can adjust as we go to roll our meatballs. Then you're going to take the milk, and that's a quarter cup of milk. And I apologize. I think I gave you a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I think you gave maybe a little more.
So just kind of toss, make sure that the breadcrumbs are all wet. And we're going to leave those just sit and kind of absorb all that milk. It's called a panade is what you're making. So you want to do that, you want to leave that sit, but we're going to build everything else on top of it. So this is about half a pound, 8 ounces of ground beef. We're going to put that in there.
And you could always substitute turkey. If you want to avoid red meat, you could go for ground turkey. You could do ground chicken. Chef, could you use mushrooms if you're vegetarian?
Absolutely. You can take and you can grind up mushrooms, and then you're going to put those through your food processor and make it to about the same consistency of what burger would be. Then you're going to saute those, cook those. Or you could do half of ground beef or half turkey. You could do half and half that way.
Ooh, yeah.
You could do half turkey and half mushrooms. So this is the part that we like to tell you. This is where you get to learn the basics, and then you get to experiment with what you enjoy.
Yep, make it your own.
So then we're going to take the egg, and you're just going to whack the egg on the side of the bowl. I could do it one-handed, but if you got to use two, just push it in there, pull it out on either side, drop it in like that. And then this is Worcestershire sauce. Now, don't put all of that in because I gave you a little more. I would start, if you have measuring spoons, I would start with a quarter of a teaspoon.
And we labeled it with a W because it was really long to spell on the tiny little cup. So if you're looking for it, it's the little W cup.
And then I'm going to add, here's an option for you. You can add half of your basil in here, or you can do all of your basil in the sauce. It's up to you. I'm not going to put any basil in my meatballs. I am going to just do half of the flat leaf Italian parsley that we chopped. And then I'm going to do the rest of page for later. And then I'm going to do some dried oregano. Now I gave you dried oregano because it's such a little bit of amount that we needed that to buy a whole thing of fresh wasn't really necessary. You can use dried. If you don't want to use fresh herbs, you can use dried. Once you start cooking and you use dried and you use fresh, you're going to
Completely different.
You're going to start to recognize the difference in the flavor. So same thing. I'd say probably a quarter of a teaspoon on this. You kind of want to pinch it and rub it in between your fingers to release any oils or anything in there. And then we're going to do some salt. Once again, I'd say a quarter to a half a teaspoon. Same thing with pepper. Now, if you would like to be spicy, like a spicy meatball, you can take the red pepper flakes and you can do pinch red pepper flakes. And I'm going to go spicy tonight. How's that, Paige?
I love it. I always think of that's one spicy meatball.
All right, now we're going to, oops, I forgot my Parmesan cheese. This is grated Parmesan cheese. Later on, we're going to use a shredded Parmesan, and you'll see the difference. But you want the grated for your meatballs. We're just going to put all of that in there too.
Perfect.
And then, like I said, the more you do these, and like once you try this tonight, you might go, after we bake these off, you might think, oh, I wish I would have added more of this or that. Those are when you always want to add it to your recipe. You always want to put your little notes on there so that you know how you want it the next time.
Could you make these but freeze them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Make them and freeze them, and then when you're ready, just pull them out, thaw them out, and then bake them.
So especially if any of you are in sports and a lot of after school activities, you know, you and your parents could always make up some batches of this ahead of time, and then when you're tired and you have to come home from a game that night, you could pop them out and not have to worry about having to make them. They're just easy to cook.
All right. So another thing to be careful with too, you want to mix your meat and your breadcrumbs together just so they're mixed and it looks like all your ingredients are combined. If I sit here and I keep if I overwork it, you're going to taste it in your meatballs. They're going to be a little drier, they're going to be a little tough. Yes, believe it or not, they will be tough. You can overwork your meatballs. So I have a scoop. If you don't have a scoop, that's okay. You can do a tablespoon, not the measuring tablespoon, but kind of the tablespoon that you use to eat soup with or cereal.
Should they be preheating their oven?
Yep, and that was the other thing. Remember at the beginning that I
We
told
knew we
you?
were forgetting something.
I told you to forget. I was forgetting something. It was to turn your oven on to 425.
I'm gonna
for
make
this.
sure that ours is on.
So I have the Magic TV though page. I already have mine done. So what you want to do is just scoop out. You can scoop out all your meatballs onto your parchment page or your parchment paper, like so. And then you're going to go back and you're going to decide, and then you're going to go back and form them into your meatballs.
Hey Chef, we have a request to slow down just a little bit.
You got it. So,
I'll find out.
so we have a request to slow down, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Paige and I are going to fill some time here till we figure out what you need us.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of maybe some of our coffee talk questions that we get asked sometimes.
I don't know, Paige.
I'm gonna ask Chef her least favorite question ever. So Chef, what is your all-time favorite food?
Well, my all-time favorite food, that doesn't bother me as much if you ask me what my favorite thing to cook is. You ask most chefs when you ask them, what's your favorite thing to cook? They don't get really happy with that question. My favorite food, it's easy. Nachos.
Nachos are always a good choice.
Nachos. Come on. Nachos on a good day, nachos on a bad day, on a rainy day, on a sunny day.
If you go to Chef Marissa's house, there's always the supplies to make nachos.
Always, always. Nachos is about creativity. It's all about who you want to be and what you want to put on there. So, I'm going to let John give me a cue if I should move on. Or, you know what we can do in the meantime? If you could reach over to, if you're at the stove.
If you could go back over what should be in the meatball bowl.
Sure. So in the meatball bowl, bring it back out. What I put was the ground beef. I put in the panko breadcrumbs, the milk, 1 egg, grated Parmesan cheese. That's the really fine looking Parmesan cheese. A little salt, a little pepper, and some of the chopped flat leaf Italian parsley, some oregano, and some of the Worcestershire. Let me go one more time. All right, so it's ground beef, panko breadcrumbs, the egg, the milk, Worcestershire. Oh, I actually said it right.
Yeah.
It's a hard word to say. Salt, pepper, red pepper flakes if you want it spicy, half of your chopped flat leaf Italian parsley, and some oregano. And then don't overmix it. You just want to kind of Squish. Such a culinary term. Squish everything together until it looks good. Because you don't want to overmix, because then you end up with giant tough meatballs and you won't enjoy it. So I guess I will finish making the rest of our meatballs.
And this is the fun part, I think, where you get to use your hands and literally just, sometimes I think it's relaxing to just do things like this, kind of like making cookies when you get to drop the cookie dough and roll it and put it in the oven.
My favorite thing to do is bread or any type of kneading.
Kneading bread.
Yes, that is something that is really enjoyable. All right, I am going to take the gloves off now. When you're at home, you don't have to wear gloves when you're cooking with food that you're making. The only reason why I'm doing it is I don't have a place to wash my hands. Because once you touch that raw meat, you need to go step away and you need to wash your raw hands.
Yep.
Or wash your hands.
Wash your raw hands. Wash them raw.
Wash your hands. And I'm going to do it, like I said before, I'm going to kind of lay my table down. Are we good? All right. So then we're going to take these off. Paige going to take these off.
Yep.
And we're going to,
How long are we going to put them in the oven for, Chef?
I would say about, let's go 15 minutes. It may take 15 to 20 minutes. Hamburger is done when it is at 155. So that should do us good. I'm going to turn up my sauce pot here. Now, I think you had on your list a skillet. You should still be fine if you have a little bit, about 2 inches, if you are using a saute pan. You should still be okay to do your sauce in that. I'm going to choose to use a saucepan. That was something when we typed it out that we said skillet, so it should work. At this time, if your water is boiling, we're going to wait.
Okay.
We'll wait for a minute.
And I'm going to tell you from my own personal experience, I always grew up with the canned pasta sauce, and then I learned from Chef Marissa how to make this kind of pasta sauce, and it's so easy and it's so cheap and it's delicious, and I think it tastes a million times different.
So guess what I did? And it's okay if you've already rolled your meatballs, don't worry about it.
You forgot the onions.
I forgot to tell you to put onions in your meatball mixture. So if you remembered, fantastic for you, and I appreciate that. That was a mistake.
Or if you're still working on it, you still got time.
Add a couple of tablespoons of, about 3 to 4 tablespoons of your chopped onions in there. Totally my fault. I set it off to the side. Thought I was being prepared. I got over prepared, I guess. So sorry about that, girls. So now we're going to saute the onions and the garlic together, but here's a couple of things you need to know. So when you saute anything, which is cooking anything in a shallow amount of oil, make sure you heat your pan first. If you don't heat your pan first, what will happen is that your food will, then your pan will have to reheat when you add your food in there, and then also too, your food will be greasy because it doesn't do that nice sizzle. So I'm feeling my pan, I can feel over the top of it, it's pretty warm. So I'm going to take my olive oil. I'm only going to do about half my olive oil, and then I'll take a look as I'm cooking if I need a little more, but I'd say about half of your olive oil. Put it in the bottom of the pan. Hopefully you can see this. You can see I got a smoke on mine, so my pan is really hot. I didn't mean for it to get quite that hot. But when you put that in there, what happens is that oil kind of like does a little dance. It runs around. That's when you know your pan is hot enough. When you have smoke coming off of it, I got it a little bit too hot. So now I'm going to take half of my onions. Hear that sizzle? If you drop your onions in there or anything down when you're sauteing and you don't hear that sizzle, your pan wasn't hot enough.
You can smell it right away too. As soon as she dropped it in there, that's all you could smell.
So I'm going to take my onions, and then I'm also going to take my sliced garlic, or if you chose diced garlic, either one. We're going to put that in there. I'm going to save that for Paige.
So, Chef, what if, say they're at home, they realize they had no fresh garlic, does garlic powder work?
Absolutely. There's
Okay.
nothing wrong with doing that. Does it change your flavor a little bit? Yes, it does. You'll see that you probably have to use a little more concentrated and it doesn't have that bright.
Yeah.
So, but there's no reason why you couldn't use that. I'm going to ask pH now, because our water is boiling, to go ahead and drop the spaghetti. And with these onions, what we're doing, so if you're still rolling your meatballs, that's okay. You can do both at the same time. The more you do this, the more you'll get used to being able to do two things.
And we should have mentioned too that at the end of this video will still be up on YouTube. So if you need to go back and rewatch anything, if you thought you missed a step, or if you just want to come back and cook with us again some night when you're trying to remember how to do this, you can find us again on the same YouTube page. So, all right, we wrapped the spaghetti good. There we go. Chef, should I break this in half or just put it in how it is?
That's up to you if you want to eat the spaghetti that way. I like mine broke up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little easier. All right. If you see, hey, just got plenty of spaghetti. If you can see the onions right now, they're turning a little bit translucent, kind of getting clearer, and they got a nice brown to it. So with that, I'm looking good. And in case you're wondering how I'm stirring with the rubber spatula, it's because this is a heat-tempered one and it can handle up to 500 degrees. So not all home spatulas are like that. Usually they have to have a red handle to indicate that. So
The pan, so I can it's like.
got it? All right. So now what I'm going to do next is I had diced tomatoes. I gave you diced tomatoes. You could use whole tomatoes. You could use stewed tomatoes if you want. But I got the diced ones. But what I'm going to do is, as I'm putting it in here, I'm going to kind of squeeze them so that they're not. I'm getting a little more of the juice out there. And no matter what tomato I use, I would do the same thing.
So what about fresh tomatoes? Could you use that?
You could. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to take a little bit longer for you to cook.
Okay.
So it's going to take longer.
Because I know if any of you have gardens at home and a lot of tomatoes to use, you can also can your own pasta sauce, which Marissa and I love to can.
Yes.
We can a lot of different things. So that is an option if you're like, man, I really love making this. I want to save it for later to pull out with the meatballs that you put in the freezer for after school. There you go.
So there I have my tomatoes in there. I'm going to add a little bit of water. I said a half a cup in the recipe. I'm going to go less than that for now because I want my everything to cook. I'm going to take about a tablespoon, which is probably about half of your tomato paste, and drop that in there. Stir that around. And then we're going to add our seasonings. The pan. So here's where you're at right now. What you're looking like.
It's so much more fun when we're in person and we walk around and we all show each other our pans and everyone's like, oh, what does yours look like? Did you put this ingredient in?
All right, so then we're going to do about a quarter to half a teaspoon of oregano. We can adjust the seasonings, so if you don't put enough in, I always say that it's better to put a little less in than to go too far, because when you take something too far, it's a lot of work to bring it back. Doesn't mean you can't bring it back, but it just is easier if you start small and then we gradually increase it. I'm going to stir my oregano in. I have my fresh basil. I'm going to put that in. If we had extra, you can either put your flat leaf, or the rest of your flat leaf in there, or you can save that for your cheesy bread. I recommend save it for your cheesy bread because it'll make your cheesy bread look really pretty. We're going to stir that together. Right
Smells
now,
amazing.
I'm going to put a little salt in there. Like I said, I'm going to come back later and I'm going to check on that. I'd say it's about a half a teaspoon of salt I put in there. And then I'm going to put about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. I chose to put red pepper in my meatballs tonight, so I'm not going to choose to put it in that. Or if you didn't put it in your meatballs and you want to put it in here, that works. Or if you don't want to do it at all, that's fine too. So here's where I'm at right now with my spaghetti sauce. is what it looks like. So what we're gonna do is while the pasta's cooking, this is simmering, we're gonna come back every once in a while and check our spaghetti sauce because we might need to add a little more water because it's getting too thick. We might need to add a little more tomato paste because it's not thick enough for us. We're gonna keep an eye on it. My Paige is gonna teach us a couple of things.
Yeah. All right. Well, before I get started, Chef, how long do you think the spaghetti takes to cook?
Should be between 7 to 10 minutes.
Okay. So we probably have a few more.
So it doesn't.
Yep.
So
Could you do a quick review? We had like a little glitch, so it like froze for like 10 seconds while you're giving that last little bit of info.
what did I say?
It was right when you started talking about your sauce in the last bit of the spices.
Oh, so the last part of the spices, what I was saying was I finished with some salt and some black pepper. And I chose to put the red pepper in the meatballs, so I'm choosing not to put it in my sauce because I think it would be spicy, and I don't want that. I want a nice balance. But if you really want it spicy here and spicy there, that is perfectly fine. That is up to you. So you can put the red pepper in, you cannot put the red pepper in, that's up to you. Keep an eye, because right now you don't want your sauce at a full rolling boil. You want it at a nice simmer. Mine was up a little too high, so I turned it down, and I went too low, so I'm trying to bring it back up. So a nice simmer is where you see it just like little bubbles every once in a while. If I take it off the pan, you can't really see it, but you just want it at a nice where it's like bubbling. Just little bubbles here and there, not a full, lots of bubbles. You don't want that. You want just a little simmer. And then Paige is going to show you something, then we're going to come back to our sauce, taste it, and see if we need to adjust seasonings.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the garlic cheesy bread, and so you should have your butter. That should have been in a bag for you, and then we also have the mozzarella. So it's the thicker cut white cheese, and then we have the Parmesan, which this is where Marissa was talking about the two different types of Parmesan. So the one that we put in the meatballs is more of like a powder, and if you look at this is, but is this what you would consider grated? Or this isn't grated, this is shredded.
That's shredded. Shredded is the thicker.
Yep. And then we're gonna use the rest of our garlic that we have left over, a little bit of the parsley, and then this is called focaccia bread, right?
Yes.
So this, it's pre-made. You could make your own, might take you some time. But one of my favorite things to do is that you can buy some of this type of pre-made bread at the store, and it actually, I think it tastes just as good as homemade bread sometimes.
Yes.
when you get it from the right place, and then it makes making homemade garlic bread just a little easier. So.
And I think that's the fun thing too with your homemade garlic bread. You could use
I got it. We're good.
You could use the panini or the focaccia bread. You could use a loaf of French bread. And you just cut it down the middle, a loaf of Italian bread, cut it down the middle. Say it's one of those nights you got home really late because you guys were out doing Girl Scout things and it was late and you're like, I'm hungry for cheesy bread. You can even use a regular piece of bread. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah.
We went fancy. We're going fancy tonight.
Yeah, we're going to make it a little fancier tonight. But so what we're going to do is we're just going to mash this butter up. So if you have a fork, go ahead and just take your butter. Hopefully it's a little softened for you. If it's not, Chef, could they maybe put it in the microwave for a few seconds?
Yep, just a few seconds.
Yep, you don't want it melted. You do want it to still be somewhat solid there, but we're gonna mash it real good. And we're gonna go ahead and add in the garlic too, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna.
So along with now tonight we're using, like Paige said, she's using the mozzarella and she's using the shredded Parmesan. In the future, you decide, I like a little cheddar on mine. I like cheddar and I like mozzarella, or I like Gouda. So this is, like we said, we teach you the base recipes, but then you learn what I can do with the meatballs.
Yes, right now would be a good time to check on your meatballs and on your spaghetti. So I think our spaghetti just maybe has a few more minutes, not much longer at all. And I'm going to throw in a little dietitian tip there that if you, or maybe want to get some more grains in there, you could do some whole grain spaghetti. If you are allergic to gluten and you have celiac disease, or maybe you're having a friend over for dinner who has celiac disease, and can't have gluten, you could do spaghetti squash. They make plenty of gluten-free pasta out of black beans and lentils and even chickpeas and things like that. So we live in a really cool time where there's so many alternatives to try. And even if you want to try them for the different flavors, some of them are pretty delicious. So worth a try.
All right. Paige is finishing up mashing the butter together with everything. Let's taste our.
Am I gonna mash the cheese in too, Chef?
Yep, and put it all together. Everything goes together. I want to taste my sauce. You might want to take this opportunity if you can taste your sauce. Don't forget it's hot. Sometimes I forget that. It's really embarrassing when you do that in front of people, and then you can't go. You gotta go. Ooh, ooh. For me, I'm gonna guess you're gonna think the same thing. It needs salt. Here's another trick too. If it is too much acidity, if it's too tomatoey for you, if that makes sense, if you taste it, and you can take some granulated sugar and put a little bit of that in there, then it'll tame down that acidity or that tomato flavor. I'm gonna put a little more salt. I'm gonna put a little bit more pepper. And then I'm definitely gonna put more oregano. And I have a feeling we probably could have used a lot more basil than I gave you tonight. So.
Yes, and I love basil, so I'm someone where it would take a lot for me to say, that's too much basil.
And then I'm gonna add a little more water. A little more water. And it could be, you might taste it too, and it might not have been enough garlic for you. If that's the case, you've got garlic powder in the house, go ahead and add some of that.
Chef, what do you think of this pasta?
I am thinking it has like 1 or 2 minutes on it.
Alrighty.
And how I can tell is, so when you look at that pasta, linguine is the greatest one to see, but when you look at the pasta, you can kind of see like starts to get translucent in the, when you here's like your noodle, it'll start to get translucent on the sides, and you can still see that it's like dense in the middle. That's when you know you have a little bit more to go. We like to say al dente, which means to the bite. You want to cook your pasta al dente. You want a little texture to it. When you overcook it and it's all mushy, and then your sauce doesn't cling right. And that's another point too. A lot of people put oil in their water. I do not like to do that because I don't think that the oil allows sauce to cling to it when it comes out.
I agree. I used to think that you should before I ever worked with chefs, and then I stopped doing it and I just put salt in the water and do that, and I think it turns out so much better. So now, Chef, I'm gonna take this, right, and we're gonna spread it onto our bread. Oops, I should probably move the bowl, right? So there we go. And we're just gonna take our fork and kind of mash the butter cheese mixture, all this deliciousness. Anyone who knows me knows that I love cheese. It's my favorite food in the world. So this is my kind of dinner.
A whole lot. I mean, I thought I liked cheese, but
hey, yep, I became a dietitian because I love food, not because I love to tell people how to diet. So don't be deceived. Dietitians get to do a lot of cool things other than talk about diets. So like work with chefs.
It's really cool when we work with a dietitian too, which keeps you in check. In a good way.
What was it I said today? We were talking about what we had for lunch, and I said, oh, I had a salad, and then I had ice cream, because it's all about balance. All right, Chef, is that too much? Too little?
No, that looks perfect. So if you have a little bit of extra garlic butter, you can put it all on if you'd like, or if you have extra, you can wrap it up and you can say that that'll stay forever. This will stay for probably about 5 days. It's butter. So.
All right. There we go. I made mine kind of into some fun lines, but as long as you mash it in there, it'll be perfect.
All right. So I'm going to guess. I've got the magic of television. So
oh, yeah.
So I'm going to guess that everybody's checked their meatballs, and I'm thinking they're all done because I will tell you mine are done. I'll show you what they look like. I have a little nice brown on now.
How long, Chef?
You're going to do 10 minutes on your, well, no, let's go 5 minutes on your bread because it's at the same temperature that your meatballs were, so we'll go a little bit quicker. So if you have a thermometer at home, you can go ahead and you can put it in there, put it into the center, just in center, and it should be 155. This is probably a tip, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to teach or not, but I can tell because there's no give to my meatballs, so I'm positive the meatballs are done. You shouldn't guess at that. You should always have a thermometer and test it with a thermometer. So like I said, 155. All right, I think.
So
Let's taste our sauce one more time.
and then we'll do the drink last.
Oh, you know what? You go ahead.
Oh, do we want to check? What do you think of spaghetti now, Chef?
I'm going to go ahead and drain the spaghetti.
Okay.
I'm going to drain it and I'm going to save some of the pasta water. The reason why I'm going to say that is because when I look at my sauce is looking pretty good, like I want it. But if I want to, I can add a little bit of that pasta water to it because it'll help thicken it up a little bit, and then, you know, it's got a little bit of the. Well, there's not really a flavor in there, but it's the thickening part, the starch.
The starch.
That'll help. So Paige is going to do that. She's going to be moving on to your drink.
Ooh,
Sorry.
there you go. Perfect. So Chef is going to grab me some ice. So if you have any ice at home, now would be a good time to get some in your cup. And you have a can of Sprite with you. We just have a Sprite from our soda fountain here, so that's just what is in our cup. And then we also have some strawberries, some pineapple, and some fresh mint. So we wanted to make kind of a fun summer drink. May not necessarily go along with our Italian theme, but fresh berries are in season. A lot of people love pineapple, so we thought, why not do something fun? So what we're gonna have you do is take out pretty much everything in the bag. Chef, the strawberries just need the top. Yep, so you can just pull off the leaf.
You might have to cut it.
Yep, I'm thinking we might need to.
Here, you give it to me now.
All right. I'm gonna let Chef Marissa cut just the top off of the strawberry. So if you have a pretty thick core in there, you might want to do the same. But you just need to take just the core out. We really don't need anything else. So perfect. So this is what Chef Marissa did. Just cut the top off. We're gonna go ahead and put it in our glass.
Now, if you don't care for strawberries, don't put them in.
Yep.
If you don't care for mint, don't put it in. Don't like pineapple, don't do that either. This is up to you. This is just three flavors that we thought would go really well together.
Oh yeah.
And Paige, I know you're gonna tell me something. How about, is there anything I can use instead of Sprite so I don't have as much sugar?
So you can always substitute just the sparkling water. There are so many sparkling waters out there now that you hear about. There's I never know how to pronounce it right. Is it bubbly? It's like B-U-B-L-Y. There's all kinds of Frescas. It's like LaCroix or something like that. So they're all out there. That would be a great substitution. You could use some sugar-free lemonade. You could make your own lemonade. There are a lot of different options. I'm all about everything in moderation. And you don't want to drink your sugar by any means, but having a glass of something that you enjoy like this is perfectly fine too. So we are just going to muddle this together. So muddling is just kind of when you mash it all together in the bottom of the cup. We have an actual, is this called a muddler?
Yes.
So we have an actual muddler here that we're using, but you at home, you can use a spoon, really anything to kind of get that a little mushy. It sounds weird, but it'll look pretty when we mix it all together. We're gonna go ahead and put our pineapple in.
Pineapple will be a little bit harder to
Yeah, this is,
Can you tell them to just use a spoon?
yep. So they can use a spoon.
So the easiest way to do that with a spoon is when you have a big little tablespoon or whatever you're using. Plastic isn't going to work as well. But if it becomes difficult to muddle what she's doing, take that piece of fruit and push it to the side of the glass. Use the glass and the spoon together. That'll help you muddle it.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have to get it really super fine. You can leave nice big chunks in there too if you want.
Perfect.
You just want some of the juices to come out of the two fruits.
All right, I'm thinking it is just about where I want it. So that is what mine looks like. And then we're gonna add the ice. Oh, thank you. All right, top it off with our Sprite. Oops, our bread is ready. We're gonna mix it up. Look at how beautiful that is. It looks like a drink that you would get at a restaurant. If anyone ever goes to Red Robin, they have their famous strawberry lemonade. I think this looks pretty similar. Might even taste a little better. Maybe I'm just biased because I made it. But there we are. There is our delicious drink. And like I said, maybe doesn't go with Italian, but I think it is a great summer-themed drink.
I think it's perfect.
All right.
All right, so the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna taste our sauce one last time. I think mine is looking really good and just the way I want it. I like mine a little thicker. So I'm gonna stir it so you can see. You got some nice chunks of tomato in there, but then I got some nice liquid in there. I'm gonna taste it one more time. Remember, don't hurt yourself. I think I just say it to remind myself.
Yeah. Do you burn yourself?
Nope. I don't. I was gonna say, for me, it tastes good. I really like it. If you find that you need a little something more in it, add it to it now, a little salt and pepper. Like I said, sugar if it's a little too acidic for you. If not, and then if you add a little more, just another minute on the stove. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna plate everything out. So,
This is where you can really impress your family and have it plated up. Maybe even if you have a little extra parsley, put it on top, make it look real pretty.
also too, so if your sauce, if you wanna try adding a little of the pasta water to it now too, if you save that, go ahead and just put a little bit in and stir that up. All right, so then we're gonna take our spaghetti.
Ooh.
We're gonna do a little twist on it. You probably have more than enough spaghetti, so what you can do is add everything at the end if you want.
Yep, and you'd be surprised what an actual serving size of pasta is. It's actually not that much. So if you go to a restaurant, pasta is one of the most overserved portions, if that makes sense. So usually when they bring you out, if you've ever been to like the Cheesecake Factory or some of those places where it seems like it's this big of a plate when it comes out, that's actually sometimes it can be like 8 to 10 servings of pasta and we don't even realize it. So sometimes it's more important to focus on the sauce and the meatballs and things like that too. So make sure you aren't over serving all of it.
I added my meatballs to the sauce. I'm gonna give those a stir. Hopefully you have a spoon.
Right here.
Perfect.
Do you need a ladle?
Nope, I'm good. I can make this work. Then I'm gonna take meatballs and put those in and let them fall where they want. I'm gonna add a little extra sauce. If you had any, I didn't think about this earlier, but if you had any extra shredded or grated Parmesan left, it would look beautiful on the top of there right now.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
I did, but it's because I always think about cheese.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Paige is gonna be upset there's not enough cheese. Alright, so there, I will tell you what I always do. You ever see your plates are always clean? It's because you just take a clean cloth, make sure there's no splatters. That's what makes them pretty. There's our meatballs, and then Paige has got some garlic bread.
Yes.
All right, so sorry, we set that one for a second. So we're gonna take our garlic bread.
Woo, that was a close one. There's a reason I'm not a chef. That's why I work with.
So to make it look a little nicer, we're gonna take and on a diagonal, we're gonna cut our garlic bread.
Beautiful.
We've got 2 plates here. You You can be fancy with the way you do it. Get this out of the way.
Voila!
And look, ladies, look at the fantastic meal that you just made. And if you're not celebrating it with anybody else, they're going to be really jealous because it's going to be delicious.
And we would love to see what you all created in your own kitchens tonight. So if you could, you can either email them to me or your Girl Scout leader, Katie. And my email is wiemANP@bgsu.edu. John is going to type it into the comments for me. Or you can go onto Instagram if any of you have social media. We have a teaching kitchen Instagram. It's called TK_BGSU Dining. We're pretty easy to find. And then if you go on there and send us a message with your picture, we would love to feature what you made. So we love seeing, especially the pictures, since we can't see it tonight in person.
So if you come up with any questions later on, don't hesitate to reach out. You'll have Paige's email. Reach out, ask us questions. We hope you really enjoyed this evening.
Yes.
One day we hope we get to meet you in person and then we can have a good time together. But we certainly enjoyed being with you and in your homes this evening. And we hope you enjoyed. Thanks.